Chapter 8. I must have knocked whatever was holding the window open, because it slammed shut as I hit the floor. Hard. The men turned and stared. The silence was sudden and terrifying, stretched wide as a cave. "Who are you?" said someone eventually. My voice would not come. Scrambling to my knees, I stared at the floor. It was covered in carpets depicting animals and hunting scenes. I moved my knee from the neck of a swan in mid-flight. "Did you just come through the window?" said another. One of the men standing at the back of the room near the fire threw his arms up in a gesture of exasperation. "Speak up! Who are you?" "I'm sure he just came through the window." I tried again. I have this." I brought the crumpled note from my pocket. "It's from Lupe." All the men seemed to hold their breath. "Is this a joke, boy?" mumbled a low, considered voice. For one wild moment, I thought it might be Dar, but when the crowd parted, it was the governor himself. My throat constricted and my heart beat so loudly in my ears, I was sure he would hear it. He was sitting at the head of the ornate table, papers spread before him, face as thunder dark as his house. He stood up and I hurriedly dropped my head. Only days before I had sat opposite him in his carriage. I was counting on the fact that he had barely deigned to look at me in those tense minutes. I said, "Is this a trick, boy?" No. "Why would my daughter be writing to you?" The voice was low and close now. The newly cropped hairs on the back of my neck lifted. Again I focused on the bunch of keys at his belt, glinting silver and gold. "I'll not look at me." "Look at me when I'm speaking to you." I did, for a painful second. I thought I saw a glimmer of recognition in his black eyes, but it was gone in an instant. I held out the note. The governor scrutinised it, then looked up, eyes narrowed. "Why would my daughter be writing to you?" he repeated. "She sent it to my sister, Isabella." I didn't think the governor would like Lupe being friends with a boy. "They're friends from school," I said, deciding to stick as close to the truth as possible. "And did she give this to you herself?" "No," I said. "Yes, I mean, she left it for us to find. I came straight here when I did." "Are you sure this is not fake?" said someone pompously. "Why would your daughter tell this boy's sister and no one else?" "Who are you?" said Governor Adori, slowly ignoring the man. "Gabo Rios. I'm the cartographer's son." Governor Adori raised his eyebrow. "A man with ideas above his station." "His thoughts are very low at the moment," quipped another man. "Down in the Daedalo." The laughter spread again. I kept my eyes on Governor Adori. He was looking at the note, considering. "It is not fake," he said decisively, "which means my daughter at least left willingly. That is something to be thankful for. But we have wasted enough time talking. How many horses did you collect, Vasquez?" "9, said Vasquez. "9, the governor roared. 9 is not nearly enough. My daughter is missing. I need a large search party." "Sir," said Vasquez carefully, "this is all we have. The others, the harbour, they all belong to you." Adori began pacing back and forth like a caged animal, flexing his fists and muttering to himself. Finally, he said, "Well, 9 men it is. We will need to take the horse, boy. They're all still spooked." I flinched. It was the man who had taken Dar. "Don't know what's gotten into the beasts." Pablo. My chest loosened slightly at the thought of seeing him. Governor Adori smacked his hand against the wall. "Enough problems. What do you not understand, Marquez? My daughter is gone." My chest ached for Carter. Gone forever. "And this boy's father?" said Vasquez coolly. He seemed used to the governor's rages. "Can't leave without a navigator. We'll need to find water, maybe shelter. Nowhere to avoid." I took a deep breath, though quickly. Dar could not go to the Forgotten Territories. He would never be able to ride with his bad leg. "I thought you might say that, sir. I brought his cartography tools." I held up the satchel. "That cripple on a horse?" sneered Marquez. I was happy to see that Pablo had left him with an ugly yellow bruise on his cheek. "What option do we have?" snapped Adore. Would you have us wandering the Forgotten Territories lost? Me, I said loudly. What? I can navigate, sir, I said, emboldened by the silence that fell across the room. I'd be more used to you, sir, than my with his leg being bad, and I have a map, an old one of the Forgotten Territories from before. I swallowed. Before they were forgotten, I finished lamely. The governor raised a finger and the room fell silent. His beetle-black eyes were still locked on mine. Can you read maps, boy? Can you draw them? Yes, sir. My father has trained me. Prove it. He clicked his fingers, and there was movement behind him. A small desk and chair were brought forward. The chair was shoved into the back of my knees, and a piece of paper and ink placed before me. You came through the fields, yes? Yes. Being a cartographer, you will know the current positions of the stars. It was one of the first things Dad taught me. Stars are the earliest maps, the most precise. They can tell you where you are better than a compass. After all, they have a bird's eye view. If you can learn to read stars, you'll never be lost. Then map the route from here to the square. I want buildings accurately scaled, field boundaries, the location of north, a wind indication, an estimation of time, walking and on horseback. Do it quickly. He strode back to the table, and the men closed ranks around me, watching. Some of what he was asking was a task for a navigator, not a cartographer, but I knew Dar would be able to do it easily, even in the darkness in Daedalus. I picked up the reed quill and, closing my eyes, retraced the journey behind my eyelids. The night sky danced on them, and stars fixing their positions. I opened my eyes and began to draw. The governor was talking again. Vasquez, you are to take up the governorship while I'm away. I'm greatly honoured, Vasquez simpered. Sir, wouldn't it be better if you stayed? Said Marquez. I hardly think Vasquez capable of controlling Gomera in such an uncertain state. An uncertain state? Said the governor icily. We have locked up the usual troublemakers. Any more, and Vasquez simply has to lock them up too. Do you doubt my judgment, Marquez? Of course not, he blustered. You expect me to stay behind? Adore's voice was rising. I was merely expressing. Then don't. Stop expressing, just do as I say. Understood? I assumed Marquez nodded, because no one else spoke or raised further objections. The root was blossoming like a tabeba bush beneath my hands. A tabeba bush beneath my hands. That's a bit of a mouthful, that. Small black buds of buildings and branches of boundaries. I added the ant lines of wind as I remembered it, snaking off the sea, southeasterly and warm. I was just starting the crisscross of star lines when the governor's attention returned to me. Are you done yet, boy? I hastily scrawled an estimate of time in the corner before the paper was snatched from me. The governor regarded it coolly, then said, Marquez, fetch Ferdinand. The man left the room as the governor looked down at me. Can you ride a horse? Yes. Can you follow orders? Do you know when to speak and when to be silent? I nodded vigorously, to show I did. Governor Adore rocked backwards slightly on his heels, his eyebrows knitting. How old are you? It was not a question I had been expecting. I was about to say 13, but something stopped me. Lupe was 13 too. Adore might think of her if I said my real age and might not let me go. Pablo was 15, but so tall and broad he would pass for a man. Best to settle for somewhere in between. 14, sir. Small for 14, sniped Marquez, but Governor Adore nodded. I didn't much like the idea of taking Rios with us anyway. He's old and disrespectful, and that leg is a hindrance. He turned his back. You'll do. Hardly believing it, I said, Sir, I thought that if I came to you, maybe my father could... Don't push your luck, boy. The governor's voice sent shivers spidering across my back. If you do not disappoint me, we'll see about your father. The door opened and I saw the kind man who had fetched Miss Lar. Go with Ferdinand to fetch the horse, boy. You two can saddle up the horses. He turned to the man. Watch them. If they try anything, put them both in the Daedalus, and send Louis here. I want him with us. Oh, and Ferdinand. Yes, sir? Don't let him see Rios. I don't want him starting any trouble down here. Yes, sir. Come on, boy. I allowed myself to be led out of the room to a dark hallway, the tide of voices rising again. I had done it. I was going. Ferdinand led me across a corridor. Why didn't you say you were coming here, eh? Could have given you a lift. I could tell he was trying to put me at ease, but my skin was crawling with nerves. The governor's house seemed to go on forever. The floors were covered with tapestries, muffling our steps. The governor's blue was everywhere. Even the ceilings were like a sky. It seemed such a waste. Dar always had to ration his sea colours, and yet here there was enough blue dye to make a large-scale map of a freak's rivers. Most of the walls were covered with paintings of stern-eyed men and ships. There were so many candles, wax burning down, and no one using the light. At last we reached a place where the corridor intersected with another, like a crossroads. At the centre was a trapdoor fitted with a heavy metal lock. I swallowed hard. The entrance to the Daedalo. A guard stood over it. He frowned as we approached. What's going on? You're needed in the drawing room, Louis, said Ferdinand curtly. The guard left without another word. It was strange, I thought, how they followed orders without comment or question. Ferdinand took a key from his belt and stopped to unlock the trapdoor. Turning the key slowly and with great effort, the bolt slid noisily. The man heaved, veins in his neck straining as the trapdoor creaked open. He let it fall to the floor with a bang, wincing at the noise. A terrible smell rose from the entrance below, damp, rotting. In the thin light of Ferdinand's lamp, I could see a stone-cut staircase leading into an impenetrable blackness. It made me dizzy just looking at it. He climbed eagerly down the first few steps, then seemed to remember he was not alone. He stopped and climbed back up, taking chains from his belt. Nearly forgot, he said, holding out the chain. He locked his wrists together and fixed the chain to a bolt in the wall, next to a heavy-legged table. I shuddered. How many people had been locked here before descending to the Daedalo? I watched as the lamp became a pinprick of light, fading as Ferdinand went lower, towards Dar, somewhere below me. I looked around, eyes catching something above the table. A large butterfly was resting in the sky-blue wall, its wings outstretched. There were an iridescent purple edged with black. I'd never seen a butterfly that size or colour before. I leant forward, taking care not to move too fast. It was not until I was breathing close enough to rustle the wings that I saw it was behind glass, saw the pin through its heart.